Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Gaura Premananda Hari Hari Bo Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Yasan Tato Jayamudirayat Nasta Presha Bandreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama-shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Kantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai We have entered the 19th chapter of the 3rd canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we'll be reading text number 1 through 30 today. Is that correct? I think it is. I think it's 1 through 30. That's what I've been planning for. So we'll ask you all to please join in with the reading, and let's begin with text number 1. And Gokulananda Prabhu, would you kindly read the translation to text number 1?
Thank you. Text 1. Sri Maitreya said, after hearing the words of Brahma, the Creator, which were free from all sinful purposes, and as sweet as nectar, the Lord heartily laughed and accepted his prayer with a glance laden with love.
Okay, does anybody know why Lord Brahma is presenting questions to Lord Sri Krishna?
Well, this is actually one of the dangers of the circumstances.
And we'll need a microphone. All right, Bhakta Jose, you got the microphone? You answer the question then. For what purpose is Lord Brahma asking a favor of Lord Krishna, Lord Vishnu? Remember, we're reading the story about Hiranyaksha, who was a great demon born of the lady Diti. Yes, who is going to give an answer?
To defeat him?
Hmm?
To defeat him?
To defeat him.
Lord Brahma is asking a question of Lord Vishnu, and yes, he's asking him to please dispatch this demoniac personality that is ranging the universe and is causing trouble wherever he alights. So he's asking, we need help. And why would they need help when they have King Indra as the most powerful of the demigods, aside from Lord Brahma, who does not enter into battle, as far as we know? Why is he asking? Why doesn't he just tell King Indra to go defeat him? What's the problem there? Jose, can you answer that?
Because this demon is also very powerful.
The demon is extremely powerful, so much so that the powers who control this particular universe that we're in find him impossible to defeat. And so he's able to go in and take over the kingdom of the demigods. All right, so let's go on to text number 2. Who's next? Who's Rupanuga Prabhu? Are you close?
The Lord, who had appeared from the nostrils of Brahma, sprang and aimed his mace at the chin of his enemy, the Hiranyaksha demon, who was stalking fearlessly before him.
Okay, so then the Lord has appeared in the form of a hog, a pig, and his name is what? Varahadev. Okay, text number 3, please.
Struck by the demon's mace, however, the Lord's mace slipped from his hand and looked splendid as it fell down whirling. This was miraculous, for the mace was blazing wonderfully.
Yes, this was a very powerful weapon that the demon Hiranyaksha had, and he hurled it at Lord Varahadev. And for some reason, the Lord allowed his own club to slip from his hand, and it went twirling down. Okay, text number 4.
Even though the demon had an excellent opportunity to strike his unarmed foe without obstruction, he respected the law of single combat, thereby kindling the fury of the Supreme Lord.
Okay, so even the demons have some unction about them to abide by the rules of combat. And since Hiranyaksha is quite convinced that this hog, whom he considers to be an appearance of one of the demigods, seems like he will not be an adequate combatant for Hiranyaksha. So he allows the Lord to recover his mace. Okay, next one, number 5.
As the Lord's mace fell to the ground, a cry of alarm arose from the witnessing crowd of gods and rishis. The personality of Godhead acknowledged the demon's love of righteousness and therefore invoked his Sudarshan discus.
Notice that Krishna is so kind that even when he's faced with a combatant who is considered to be very evil, believe in conquering all of the personalities in the universe, he still recognizes or acknowledges the demon's love of righteousness, and therefore he invoked his Sudarshan or discus. Okay? You want to read number 5 or 6, please?
Sure. As the discus began to revolve in the Lord's hands, and the Lord contended at close quarters with the chief of his Vikunta attendants, who had been born as Hiranyaksha, a vile son of Diti, there issued from every direction strange expressions uttered by those who were witnessing from airplanes. They had no knowledge of the Lord's reality, and they cried, "May victory attend you! Pray dispatch him. Play no more with him.
So there seems to be some concern among even the demigods that the demon is more powerful than the Lord, or that he's really an adequate opponent of the Lord. In other words, they're not. They seem not to be convinced of Lord Barahadev's power, even though he is controlling everything within not only this universe, but every other one of many, many universes. Still, they don't realize that he has so much more power that actually this person, Hiranyaksha, is not up to his standard of combat. All right, text number 7.
When the demon saw the personality of Godhead, who had eyes just like lotus petals, standing in position before him, armed with his Sudarshan disc, his senses were overpowered by indignation. He began to hiss like a serpent, and he bit his lip in great resentment.
Easily angered, this demon is. All right, text number 8.
Demon who had fearful tusks stared at the personality of Godhead as though to burn him. Springing into the air, he aimed his mace at the Lord, exclaiming at the same time, "You are slain."
Okay, so Hiranyaksha he has the belief that he can actually kill this person who is appearing as a hog. Okay, text number 9.
O saintly Vidura, while his enemy looked on, the Lord in his form, the enjoyer of all sacrificial offerings, playfully knocked down the mace with his left foot, even as it came upon him with the force of a tempest.
Just casually kick the mace down. Okay, number 10, please.
The Lord then said, "Take up your weapon and try again, eager as you are to conquer me." Challenged in these words, the demon aimed his mace at the Lord, and once more loudly roared.
Okay, so it appears that the Lord has allowed Hiranyaksha to recover his mace, and so he's really challenging now, just playing with him now, actually. All right, next text, number 14.
When the Lord saw the mace flying toward him, he stood firmly where he was and caught it with the same ease as Garuda, the king of the birds, would seize a serpent.
Let's see, I'm sorry, what verse were we on? Okay, I think we have pages stuck together here. Would you read it again, please?
When the Lord saw the mace flying toward him, he stood firmly where he was and caught it with the same ease as Garuda, the king of birds, would seize a serpent.
Okay, so instead of being destroyed by the mace of Hiranyaksha, he simply caught it with great ease. Okay, number 12, please.
His valor thus frustrated, the great demon felt humiliated and put out his countenance. He was reluctant to take back the mace when it was offered by the personality of Godhead.
Yeah, you can imagine he's feeling like you're just treating me as though I'm an inferior, handing my mace back to me. Thank you. Okay, who's going to read next? Text number what? 13?
He now took a trident, which was as rapacious as a flaming fire, and hurled it against the Lord, the enjoyer of all sacrifices, even as one would use penance for a malevolent purpose against a holy Brahmana.
Use penance for a malevolent purpose against a holy Brahmana. Okay, text number 14, please, Draupadi.
Hurled by the mighty demon with all his strength, the flying trident shone brightly in the sky. The personality of Godhead, however, tore it to pieces with his discus, Sudarshan, which had a sharp-edged rim, even as Indra cut off a wing of Garuda.
Now, for those of you who were like me and had not heard about this past time about Indra, the king of the demigods, cutting off a wing of Garuda, you need to read that purport at some time. We won't do it now because we got other verses to cover. But I don't remember having read that before, that the king of the demigods cut off the wing of Garuda. And Garuda is been said to be on the same level as Vishnu Tattva. So, is it possible to do him any damage? No, not unless he desires that it be done. Okay, next one, 15. Or 16, please. 15, all right.
The demon was enraged when his trident was cut to pieces by the disgust of the personality of Godhead. Lord, and roaring aloud, struck his hard fist against the Lord's broad chest, which bore the mark of Srivatsa. Then he went out of sight.
Okay, which bore the mark of Srivatsa. Okay, and it's interesting here. Let's read that purport. Just it's very short. Srivatsa is a curl of white hair on the chest of the Lord, which is a special sign of his being the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Vaikuntha Loka, or Goloka Vrindavan, the inhabitants are exactly of the same form as the Personality of Godhead, but by this Srivatsa mark on the chest of the Lord, he is distinguished from all others. That was an interesting comment there that Srila Prabhupada made. And Srivatsa is also, what's the identity of that mark, that little curl of hair? What is it?
It's the goddess of fortune.
Goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi. So sometimes Prabhupada pronounces Lakshmi's name Lucky. Did you know that? Have you read that? Doesn't that sound like an English word? Meaning fortune. Yeah, luck. Good luck. Okay? So you're lucky if you are that curl of hair on the Lord's chest. Okay, next one. 16.
Hit in this manner by the demon, O Vidura, the Lord, who had appeared as the first boar, did not feel the least quaking in any part of his body, any more than an elephant would when struck with a wreath of flowers.
Okay, so in other words, he was not too much affected. And there's another instance in which weapons were thrown at the Lord, and it felt as though he was being hit by flowers. Does anybody remember what that occasion was? Kamsa? What are you going to say?
Draupadi said Bhishma, fighting against Bhishma Dev.
Arrows being fired by Bhishma Dev at
We're like flowers.
Lord Krishna. Is that what you're talking about? Bhishma on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. All right, and so his arrows were striking the body of Lord Krishna, and Lord Krishna took them as flowers being offered to him. Pretty nice person, this Krishna person. All right, next one, please.
The demon, however, employed many conjuring tricks against the personality of Godhead, who is the Lord of Yoga Maya. At the sight of this, the people were filled with alarm and thought that the dissolution of the universe was near.
At the sight of this, so the demon then had knowledge of and use of mystical perfections, mystical abilities. And so the persons who were watching this, the people who were watching this combat, then were filled with alarm and thought that the dissolution of the universe was near. So this is interesting because the universe is coming from the energy of whom? Krishna, or more directly, Lord Vishnu, Mahavishnu. And so, just a few mystical tricks. That's no problem. And it's wonderful to read in the later pastimes of Krishna about when he's fighting with personalities, demonic person, and also Arjuna. Arjuna is very adept at using weapons of his own to counteract the weapons that were conjured up by someone who also had those mystic abilities. So the Lord Krishna can empower any of his devotees then with the same kinds of abilities that he has. Okay, next text please, number 18.
Fierce winds began to blow from all directions, spreading darkness occasioned by dust and hailstorms. Stones came in volleys from every corner, as if they were thrown by machine guns.
Stones came. All right, this sounds like also the attack on Krishna's village of Braj, Gokula, which is the appearance of Goloka Vrindavan in this material world. It's known as Gokula. And so whenever King Indra was denied the sacrifices that the people had been accustomed to making to Indra, King Indra became very angry and thought these insignificant little human beings, they refuse at the insistence of some tiny boy, they refuse to give me my sacrifices, so I'll take care of them. So he had clouds come and attack Goloka Vrindavan, Gokula, and Krishna was holding up the hill known as Govardhan to protect all the citizens. And just an incidental note here that some people were wondering, have wondered, well, what happened to all the cows and the deer and other kind of animals who are on the hill? You know, you got all the human beings and the cows of the villagers down below the hill being protected from King Indra's onslaught. But what about those that are up on top of the hill? And I've heard it said that they were protected as well from Indra's onslaught. The clouds had no effect, even though there were hailstones coming down, and that would have destroyed anybody. Still, they were protected by the potency of the Supreme Lord. Okay, read on, please.
The luminaries in outer space disappeared due to the skies being overcast with masses of clouds, which were accompanied by lightning and thunder. The sky rained pus, hair, blood, stool, urine, and bones.
Okay, so this is also reminiscent of the time of Lord Ramchandra, when there were a couple of demonic personalities who were raining these kinds of really horrible materials on the sacrificial, what do you call it? The place where the table, like a table or surface, where there was sacrifices being prepared by the Brahmanas. So Lord Ramchandra then had to come and take care of them. Okay, very nasty things being rained down by the mystical power of Hiranyaksha. Okay, text number 20.
O sinless Vidura, mountains discharged weapons of various kinds, and naked demonesses armed with tridents appeared with their hair hanging loose.
Okay, so this is a very demoniac time. It reminds you of a celebration that we have coming up very shortly at the end of this month. And what is that? Halloween. Halloween. What did you say, Kartik? Does that remind you of Kartik? Okay, so yeah, all kinds of horrible creatures appearing, and even mountains are throwing weapons. Okay, of course we do remember that at one time mountains had personalities, and what we see as mountains now are simply the bodies, the remaining bodies. The spirit souls apparently have left those bodies now. Okay, number 21.
Cruel and savage slogans were uttered by hosts of ruffian yakshas and rakshasas, who all either marched on foot or rode on horses, elephants, or chariots.
Okay, so yakshas and rakshasas are characters. They're considered, I think, they're included in the, let's see, 8,400,000, in the 400,000 different species of human beings. I think that rakshasas and yakshas are included in that, but they are also very demoniac. Okay, number 22.
The Lord, the personal enjoyer of all sacrifices, now discharged his beloved Sudarshana, which was capable of dispersing the magical forces displayed by the demon.
Good old Sudarshan Chakra. He's able to, and he has personality too, isn't he? Just like all of the Lord's weapons have personality. So Sudarshan, he knows the will of the Supreme Lord, Barahadev, and so therefore he is able to take care of all of these illusory attacks by the demon Hiranyaksha. Okay, 23, please.
At the very moment, a shrewder suddenly ran through the heart of Diti, the mother of Hiranyaksha. She recalled the words of her husband Kashyapa, and the blood flowed from her breast.
Yes, so the mother of Hiranyaksha, the demon, then, she feels a shudder going through her body, and that's usually an indication that something of great portent is about to happen. So let's go on, 24.
When the demon saw his magic forces dispelled, he once again came into the presence of the personality of Godhead, Keshava, and, full of rage, tried to embrace him within his arms to crush him. But to his great amazement, he found the Lord standing outside the circle of his arms.
So the Lord has his own mystical ability that the demon tries to crush him with his embrace, but he looks and he sees the Lord is no longer within his grasp. He's outside. Okay, 25.
The demon now began to strike the Lord with his hard fists, but Lord Adhoksha just slapped him in the root of the ear, even as Indra, the lord of the Maruts, hit the demon Vritra.
Okay, good. Lord is now taking some action. All right, next translation, 26.
Though struck indifferently by the Lord, the conqueror of all, the demon's body began to wheel. His eyeballs bulged out of their sockets, his arms and legs broken, and the hairs on his head scattered. He fell down dead, like a gigantic tree uprooted by the wind.
So the Lord has not used his Sudarshan Chakra or any other weapon against this demon. He simply casually kicked him or slapped him with one of his hoofs, and he's caused the demon to give up his body, just like he did, like Krishna did with who was the person that kept saying bad things about Krishna? Shishupal. Yeah, so just as the Lord sent his Sudarshan Chakra to cut off the head of Shishupal, now he's not even using a weapon. He's just casually kicking the demon at the base of his ear. Okay, next one. 26. Or did we? Yeah, we did that. Okay, 27. Text 27.
Aja, Brahma, and others arrived on the spot to see the fearfully tusked demon lying on the ground, biting his lip. The glowing of his face was yet unfaded, and Brahma admiringly said, "Oh, who could meet such a blessed death?"
So Lord Brahma is realizing that simply by the touch of the Supreme Lord, there's good in store for this demonic personality. And you noticed, let's see, Brahma, Lord Brahma, is also referred to as Aja. Do you know what that means? Unborn, the unborn one, yes. Okay, text number 28.
Brahma continued. He was struck by a forefoot of the Lord, whom yogis seeking freedom from their unreal material bodies meditate upon in seclusion and mystic trance. While gazing on his countenance, the crest jewel of Diti's son has cast off his moral coin.
All right, while in other words, while Hiranyaksha is gazing on the Lord's countenance, what is countenance? What is it?
Just looking it up.
A person's face or facial expression.
Okay, it refers to his face or facial expression. Yeah. So while he was gazing upon the Lord, he gave up his body. And this was the same fate, this is the same way in which Bhishmadev on the battlefield gave up his body. He also was gazing at the beautiful face of Lord Krishna standing before him. Okay, next text. Number 28. Okay. Yeah, 29, thank you.
These two personal assistants of the Supreme Lord, having been cursed, have been destined to take birth in demoniac families. After a few such births, they will return to their own positions.
Okay, so remember that these two brothers, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, were cursed. They were actually the gatekeepers of Vaikuntha, the spiritual world. And but yet by an arrangement of the Supreme Lord, the four little boys, Kumaras, were angered by these two gatekeepers, and therefore they cursed them to take birth in the material world. And so the Lord has told them either 7 births as my devotees or 3 births as my enemy. Which do you choose? And what did they choose? They chose to come back as the Lord's enemies. Why? That sounds like a kind of a strange decision to make. Why did they come back after? Why did they choose that, taking birth as demons?
It's quicker, and if they get killed by Krishna, they get liberation.
Yes, they did not want to be separated any longer than possible. And all of this was by the inspiration and the desire of Lord Krishna. He did not want his 2 devotees to have to stay in the material world any longer than possible. And we also know that the Lord desired to fight. So when the Lord desires to fight, he has to choose some of his own devotees to fight with, because nobody else is capable. And how is it then that those 2 devotees become capable? The Lord gave them the empowerment to come and fight with them. He also gave them, or allowed Mahamaya to give them the mentality that they were inimical toward the Lord. Okay, let's go on.
The demigods address the Lord. All obeisances unto you. You are the enjoyer of all sacrifices, and you have assumed the form of a boar, in pure goodness, for the purpose of maintaining the world. Fortunately for us, this demon who was a torment to these worlds has been slain by you, and we too, O Lord, are now at ease. In devotion to your lotus feet.
Devotion to your lotus feet. Okay. And we too, O Lord, are now at ease in devotion to your lotus feet. Okay, so the demigods are offering their obeisances to the Supreme Lord. Now, this text number 30 is the one that we're going to actually read the translation, and the transliteration and the purports offered by Srila Prabhupada. So, if you will, we'll do it. We'll read word line by line in the beginning. Shall we do that? So I'll read and you repeat, please. Deva uchu Namo namaste kila yagya tantave. Stito grihita malasattva murtaye. Distyahato yam jagatam maruntudas. Tvatpada bhaktya vayam isha nivrita. Let's do it again. Deva uchu. Namo namaste kila yagya tantave. Stito grihita malasattva murtaye. Distyahato yam jagatam maruntudas. Tvatpada bhaktya vayam isha nivrita. Chant, please. Deva uchu. Namo namaste kila yagya tantave. Sito grihita malasattva murtaye. Distyahato yam jagatam maruntudas. Tattva bhaktya vayam ishidanivrita. Someone else, please. Deva Uchu.
Namo namaste kilya yagna tantve.
Namo namaste kila yagya tantave.
Satyamala sattva
Sito grihimala sattva murtaye.
Distyahato yam jagatamantas.
Distyahato yam jagatam maruntutas.
Satpada bhaktya vayam ishirviteha.
Swadpada bhaktya vayam isha nivrita. Draupadi, can you chant that? Namo namaste kila yagya tantave. Siddham murtaye. Distyahato yam jagatam maruntudas. Tvatpada bhaktya vayam isha nivrita. Someone else, please. Namo namaste kila yagya tantave. Stito grihita malasattva murtaye. Distyahato yam jagatam maruntudas. Okay, let's do word for word with the translations. I'll say and then you repeat, please. Deva, the demigods. Uchu, said. Namah, obeisances. Namah, obeisances. Te, unto you. Akila yagyatantave, the enjoyer of all sacrifices. Stito, for the purpose of maintaining. Grihita, assumed. Amala, pure. Sattva, goodness. Murtaye, form. Distya, fortunately. Hata, slain. Ayam, this. Jagatam, to the worlds. Aruntuda, causing torment.
causing torment.
Tvat pada,
Tat pada,
to your feet. Bhaktya,
bhaktya,
with devotion.
devotion.
Vayam, we. Isha,
Isha,
O Lord. Nivrita,
nirvita,
have attained happiness.
obtain happiness.
All of these, I think, are reminders of really solid foundation in our spiritual life. Okay, I'm Father Matthew Spencer, sitting in for
Mr. Demner, would you please read the first paragraph in the purport?
914-9149 is the number to call. Be happy to take your call and have you as part of the conversation. I'm going to take a quick time out.
The material world consists of three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. For the spiritual world is pure goodness. It is said here that the form of the Lord is pure goodness, which means that it is not material. In the material world, there is no pure goodness. In the Bhagavatam, the stage of pure goodness is called Sattvam Vishuddham. Vishuddham means pure. In pure goodness, there is no contamination by the inferior qualities, namely passion and ignorance. Therefore, the form of the boar in which the Lord appeared is nothing of the material world. There are many other forms of the Lord, but none of them belong to the material qualities. Such forms are non-different from the Vishnu form, and Vishnu is the enjoyer of all sacrifices.
Okay, I appreciate the fact that even though you started that next to the last sentence, the form of the boar, you started it with the word therefore, but when you realized that it did not come first, you continued on with the verse and read it perfectly. Very good. Okay, second paragraph, please.
The sacrifices which are recommended in the Vedas are meant to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In ignorance only, people try to satisfy many other agents. But the real purpose of life is to satisfy the Supreme Lord, Vishnu. All sacrifices are meant to please the Supreme Lord. The living entities who know this perfectly well are called demigods, godly or almost God. Since the living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, it is his duty to serve the Lord and please him. The demigods are all attached to the personality of Godhead, and for their pleasure, the demon, who was a source of trouble to the world, was killed. Purified life is meant to please the Lord, and all sacrifices performed in purified life are called Krishna consciousness. This Krishna consciousness is developed by devotional service, as clearly mentioned here.
All right, that was a rather long reading that we had to do, and you all did it very nicely. We had a little bit of comments on it. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Darati Swabarantikam. And I have a few questions that I want us to address, even though we're running a little short of time, aren't we? Okay, why does the Lord allow evil persons to dominate in this world? That's a question for you.
He does it so that he can come down and enjoy his desire to fight.
He said that sometimes the Lord desires to fight, so he allows him to come down to fight with him.
Okay, to participate in Leela of the Lord. That's a good book. But that goes for really special personalities, doesn't it? When the Lord invites his own devotees to come down. What about those who come into this world who are not devotees of the Lord? Why does he allow them to dominate? examples from the past century, uh, the 20th century. We had a world war going on 2 times. And one of the personalities who was responsible for causing pain and suffering for so many people was who? Adolf Hitler. Okay, so why would the Lord give him the power to do what he did? Because where does the power come from? Where did Hitler's power come from? It comes from the Supreme Lord himself, doesn't it? As a matter of fact, when Hiranyakashipu asked his son Prahlad, "Where do you get your power, Prahlad?" What did Prahlad say?
Same place that you do, Father.
Same place you get your power, Father. So if Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha were empowered by the Supreme Lord to come down, we understand the reason. That was a particular Leela of the Lord that he wanted to fight. Why did he give power to Adolf Hitler, Mussolini, and who? There was one, Stalin, Joseph Stalin of Russia. Why would he give those personalities power to cause havoc throughout the entire world and cause millions to die, and millions more who did not die immediately to suffer? Why does he give that kind of power to any of his living entities?
The intricacies of karma are pretty much incomprehensible from our position. However, we can understand that karma is working. And so by the desire of some to become quite powerful and to take advantage of people.
All right, so that's one reason. Those living entities that we mentioned desired to dominate within this earth that we're on now, not throughout the universe like Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, but he in other words, minor demon. He is a minor demon, and he is empowered by the Supreme Lord to be able to accomplish what he did. First of all, because they had the desire to do that. They wanted to enjoy fame, strength, power over all others in this universe. And for some reason, the Lord has given them that empowerment to do that. Not only them, but then he empowered the entire countries of those personalities to help their leader to practically almost overcome the entire world, the entire modern world as we know it. So, because they desire to, any other reasons that he might have allowed them to have that power to cause suffering and destruction.
So then the other part of it is that there might be a person who desires the power, but then there's the people who are being afflicted by that power. They also have some kind of karma, that karmic situation where they are getting relieved of their karma through that person.
Okay, now that's, Gokula, we could pass that to Gokulana Prabhu. Give us some wisdom, Gokulana Prabhu.
I can just share my thoughts. So, we have to look at the purpose, why this world has been created. And the purpose is stated in Bhagavad Gita itself by the Supreme Lord. You say, Ichadvesha. So, the rebellious living entities in the spiritual world, they desire to enjoy independently away from the Lord, number one. And number two, they were envious of the Lord. Why you are the Lord? Why you are the enjoyer? Why you are the controller? Why not me? And that's why this artificial arrangement has been made by the Supreme Lord, where there is twofold purpose, stated here. So, number one, to fulfill the desires of the living entities. to be the Supreme Lord, just like analogy is given, a small kid telling his father that, Father, I want to grow up now. So father says, you can. But then, because he's so obstinate, that father has to fulfill his desire. So what father does is, gives his hat, his coat, and shoes, and so on and so forth. So after wearing his father's paraphernalia, he starts thinking that I have grown up like my father. But has he really grown up? He hasn't. So under illusion, he's thinking that he has grown up like his father. So similarly, when we look at the purpose of this world, the desire on one hand of the living entities to enjoy independently, to be the Supreme Lord, like Jesus Christ said, man is made in the image of God, right? So Krishna gives his paraphernalia to all of us so that our desire is fulfilled. On the other hand, at the same time, the purpose of the world is to reclaim the fallen souls who have chosen to be away from the Lord. So then, there comes this particular part where there are lashes and whipping and everything in the form of threefold miseries. So some living entities who are to the higher degree wanting to be the Lord or to enjoy the Lord, they are empowered by Mahamaya. To be like in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says there are 4 kinds of demonic propensities, and in Tanaham Vishato Kruran, Shipami Ajastram, I cast them perpetually. So I empowered them, indirectly.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to cut it short because we're running short on time. A couple of more points that I want to make. So we've got 2 reasons that are presented right now. The Lord empowers those personalities who have a strong desire to dominate, to rule, and to have the pleasure that comes from that. That's one of the reasons that they're empowered. Another is that the personalities who are being negatively affected by the displays of those powers that are given to those persons by the Lord, they deserve what they're getting. Now, we don't like to think about that when it's going on around us. For example, in this world, when Ukraine was invaded by Russia, and then when the Hamas group was decided to blast some of the buildings and the people in Israel, we don't like to say, you're just getting what you deserve. That's not very nice. But in a sense, that is entirely true. Because every one of us has to suffer, not for what someone else has done or is doing to us, but that we're having to suffer because we deserve it from what we have done in the past. And those laws of karma are very intricate. It's very hard to trace these things back to the time when we committed some very heinous activity toward another person. And that is causing us. Even a group like the Native Americans, some people think that it was really an atrocity on the part of the Europeans to come over and take the power away, take the land away, kill all of the animals in this country that were under the control of the Native Americans at that time. But for some reason, the Lord permitted those Europeans who came over to have the power to conquer those indigenous persons who were already here. And He also allowed those persons who were here to have to undergo the suffering that they were due from acts that they committed in the past. So now we cannot say then the Lord is responsible directly for the suffering of us or anyone else. Because if that were the case, if we were innocent and we had to suffer because of what someone else is doing, then that means either the Lord is bad or He's not in control. And we accept that He is not bad, that He is entirely good, and that He is very much in control of every aspect of every living entity, from Brahma down to the tiniest insect or tiniest one-cell amoeba in this world, who have the bodies of those creatures, even though they themselves are spirit souls that are as brilliant as 1,000 suns. In their normal condition, it said, the living entity, spirit, soul, being part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, is as brilliant as 1,000, 10,000 suns. They also are full of knowledge. They are always in happy. Let's see, Sat Chit Ananda. They're eternal. They're full of knowledge, and they're always blissful in their original form. But whenever they choose to come into this material world, then they get entangled in so many reaction-producing activities, and therefore they have to suffer or enjoy depending on what they've done in the past. But we've heard it said there's good karma and then there's bad karma, right? There is no good karma, because good karma means you have to come back and accept the good stuff that comes as a result of what you've done in your past life that did not get you out of this world. Opening hospitals, taking care of children and widows and old people, doing things like that produce good results, but unfortunately they bring you back into this world, and you have to repeat it again. So best thing to do is what? Karma. No karma. Perform only the activity. So any activity which is performed in this material world, which is not done for the purpose of the happiness, the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then, is known to produce bad results, whether they're good or bad. Good meaning born into a good family, as many of people in our community have done. We got one little girl here who's born into a good family, her good fortune, but that she was born into a good family. Now, if she continues on that in that way that her parents are doing, serving the Supreme Lord in whatever they do, then there's a really good chance that this is her last stay in the material world, the last involuntary stay in the material world. She can come back again to serve her spiritual master, who may also be here in this material world, helping to deliver those whom he initiated, but who decided to go astray, to go back to what they were doing before. He comes back because of his own compassion, his own mercy, and tries to deliver them. So that's where we want to be also. We want to be with our spiritual master, helping to deliver all of the fallen souls who are still in this material world. Hare Krishna.
Quick last point.
Yes.
So unless we
Make it short.
Yeah, sure. Unless we are convinced that how ghastly this material existence is, we would never want to get out of this material world.
Better to get out. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Shri Radha Kalachandjiram Ki Jai. We offer our respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are just like desire trees, who fulfill the desires of everyone, and who are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhya eva cha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. Have a good day, everyone. Wednesday, hump day. Have a good day. If you have time, if you get a chance, please chant the holy names.